I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. Ms. King, could you please do our roll call?
Mark Marsden.
Here.
Kathy Serrano. Jason Olive.
Here.
Joel Ford.
Here.
Kurt Ford.
Here.
Thank you. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We will start with a little bit of routine business this evening. The first is 2.01, approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2024 regular board meeting. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2024 regular board meeting.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of the April 10th, 2024 regular board meeting, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. 2.02 is to approve and ratify the payroll and accounts payable vouchers. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I would like to make a motion to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving and ratifying payroll and accounts payable vouchers, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Mr. Narducci, do we have any correspondence?
Madam President, there's no correspondence at this time.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to our student body reports. Our first student council president is from Castile High School, and her name is Riley Martinez. Riley, what's going on at Castile?
Hello, good evening, President, Superintendent Narducci. It's nice to see you guys. My name is Riley Martinez, and I've had the greatest honor of serving as the Castile High School student body president this past year. While I visited you multiple times throughout the year, today I'm here to wrap up what has been ultimately an amazing year. So let me begin my final roundup, as we say at Castile, for the 2023-2024 Castile school year. Spring sports are some of our favorites over at Castile. From baseball to beach volleyball, our athletes continue to soar to new achievements. For instance, our baseball team just recently attended a tournament in North Carolina as part of the best 16 teams in the nation. Just receiving an invitation to attend was a monumental achievement for the program. Currently, they are ranked number 1 in 5A and just beat the number 1 6A Hamilton. We look forward to watching them as they hopefully progress into the state championship as they have previously. On the other hand, our men's volleyball is also on the rise. As of today, they are ranked 2nd in 5A and 5th in all of Arizona. This year, they won the Kellis Invitational and are one of the favorites heading into playoffs. Just yesterday, Castile was able to host a rival game against Higley during the school day. It was so fun seeing students flood into the stands as they would for an assembly and support their volleyball team. We are certainly excited to watch as the rest of their season unfolds. On the opposite court, men's and women's tennis successfully completed their seasons with great records. In total, they have 5 state qualifiers that will represent our school this weekend in the state tournament. While neither team progressed to playoffs, they are satisfied with great seasons and celebrated with their annual men's versus women's match against each other. We are so proud of all the hard work they put into their sport. To recognize some of our Lady Colts on campus, we'd like to mention the incredible season softball has put on this year. As an almost entirely new team, they have worked hard to rebuild the program and mold it into something that will only continue to grow in the coming years. While they may have gone through some ups and downs, this team is more versatile and dedicated than ever. Go softball. Finally, our most participated in spring sport, track and field. This year's team was filled with many hardworking and talented individuals. Not only did they break the school records, but they regularly placed as some of the top finishers in multi-school meets. We cannot wait to see how they will compete and hopefully take home the gold at state. With all this celebration for sports, we also like to recognize our amazing fine arts. Oops, here we go. Moving on. Okay, orchestra just recently competed in a festival and received an excellent score. We are so grateful for both theirs and band's involvement across campus. We are especially looking forward to seeing them perform at graduation as the senior class walks. Next, choir just finished their Anaheim tour last weekend and received 2 place finishes in the concert choir and jazz ensemble categories. We are so proud of them. Finally, we would like to recognize the 9 musicians who were chosen to perform in the All-State Concert Choir and Band 2 weekends ago. It is incredibly difficult to have one All-State student from one school, let alone 9. Castile is proud of the fact that we consistently earn top musicians in regional and All-State groups. We love our fine arts. However, one specific arts program that I believe deserves the most recognition is our theater company. In April, our award-winning theater department put on the musical Anastasia. Not only was it an unforgettable show in terms of audience attendance, but it was a breakthrough in everything from choreography, costume changes, music, to set design. In addition to this, there were 5 nominees for the Gamut Awards, which recognize the top performers in the state. Some of these titles include Best Lead Female, Best Supporting Male, and Best Vocalist. This is a record number of qualifiers for Castile, and we can't wait to see the results. Again, we are so proud of everything they have accomplished. As you can probably tell, we love to put on events at Castile. Our final assembly celebrating spring sports was on March 28th, and it's safe to say we had a blast. We had so much fun taking pictures on our unofficially official cult cam of those fully in theme and cowboy gear. In addition, we loved continuing our tradition of a combined dance between pom and cheer and baseball and volleyball. This year it was a line dance. We pride ourselves in the school-wide enthusiasm and participation at these assemblies. What a great day in cult country. Yet it is not only important to honor these big events on campus, but the little ones too, or maybe not so little for junior Isaiah Huerto. Isaiah is well-versed in the design industry. Being the newspaper editor, a photographer, graphic designer, and overall media enthusiast, it was no surprise when he was selected as the winner of the 2025 Jostens Senior T-Shirt Graphic Design Contest, a highly competitive and national competition. Winning this meant that his design will be offered to all seniors graduating next year as the official Jostens Class of 25 T-shirt. He says he drew most of his inspiration from current trending media and graphics to help design this shirt. We are so incredibly proud of Isaiah and his creativity he has displayed in all that he does. It is a tremendous accomplishment to earn such an award, and we truly cannot congratulate him enough. To spotlight a club on campus, I would like to tell you about Safe School Ambassadors and its main focus. SSA is a club focused on training students to be more aware of bullying and its effects on teens. Part of this includes service opportunities. This quarter, they visited a nursing home in which they made blankets to give to the residents and arranged toy drives to give to teens who are not as fortunate as us. They are one of the only programs of its kind in the state and are such a positive presence on campus. Now, I would like to change my focus from what we have done this year to what we will do. Introducing the class of 2024. This year, Castile is home to 12 Impact Scholars, along with several other Chandler Education Foundation winners. These scholarships are awarded to only the most dedicated and hardworking students on campus. Just this morning, we hosted the annual CEF Awards breakfast to honor their achievements. As of now, 53% of graduating seniors plan on attending a 4-year university, 21% community college, 8% a trade school, and we have 8 confirmed military enlistments, and that's before all of the final information has been collected. It is not hard to be inspired by this class. Beginning our freshman year in the midst of a pandemic and entering our first day of high school on a Google Meet, for lack of better words, it sucked. Still, we persevered. I cannot express the pride I feel surrounded by such a special group of classmates. We truly are the rising generation that is going to change the world. Now, before too many tears start flowing, I'll try and leave on a more positive note. Some upcoming events. This weekend, we are hosting our second ever Powder Puff. If you have attended any of our regular season football games, you can imagine the standard the coaches are holding us to. Let's just say we've been worked. Next, prom-themed Great Gatsby. The student government juniors have been working tirelessly to give us an amazing dance, which will be held at Superstition Manor on May 4th. Tickets are selling fast, so we look forward to a packed night. Senior Sunset will be on Friday, May 10th as a final close to our senior year, then finally graduation. We hope you can all attend our graduation ceremony on May 23rd, hosted on our newly turfed field. We have amazing speakers and performances lined up for an amazing night of achievement, recognition, and celebration. Thank you so much for your time today. It truly has been an honor to represent my school as the spokesperson to announce what we have accomplished this year. I have loved collaborating with my fellow CUSD student body presidents who have become some of my closest friends. This title has taught me lessons I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Thank you, Ms. King and Superintendent Narducci. who have been incredibly supportive to all of us. And thank you, Chandler Schools, for this great opportunity, and especially Castile High School for an even greater experience. I have loved my time as a Colt. Thank you and good night.
Riley, before you leave, could you tell us what your plans are for after graduation?
I don't need the microphone. I'm going to BYU in the fall. I'm going to be working this summer, and then I plan on serving a mission for my church in January.
And what will you be majoring in?
So it's kind of a newer major. It's called Experience Design. It's like event planning, basically a glorified Stugo. So I'm a Stugo girl. What can I say? Thank you, guys.
Sounds great. Thank you. Next, from Chandler High, we have Lexi Moreno. What's going on at Chandler High?
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I'm not as tall as Riley. Good evening, all fellow board members, all board members, and all of those in attendance. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Lexi Moreno, and I'm the student body president at Chandler High School. It feels like it's been so short since my last meeting, but we've been up to quite a few things, so I'm excited to update you guys on my last presentation. We kicked off this quarter with our last assembly of the school year, our spring assembly, which had a Space Jam theme. It corresponded with our last school-wide Spirit Week, which was a blast. It was basically throwback movies, so this one was our sports day, aka Space Jam. The crowd's favorite game was our basketball shooting contest, which featured some of our teachers and students, as you can see right here. And a few of our girls' basketball students were in the midst, so obviously students won. But it was such a fun assembly to end off our school year. In March, our Lobos student dancers were invited to perform at Intel for President Joe Biden's CHIP Act announcement. All of our students involved were super excited, and we're all super proud of them. They're a new club on campus, so this is a great way to end the school year for them. And they've been such a hit around campus this year at our assemblies and our Unity Assembly, and we can't wait to see what they have in store for us next year. Navy Week on campus was a blast. We had sailors that wore historic 1812 uniforms from the USS Constitution that that taught some classes and were honored at an assembly. Students in PE learned combat side strokes at the pool and various other land drills from instructors. And we're very glad to have had Rear Admiral Allego on campus to celebrate. Last week, our newspaper and yearbook classes took a trip to Kansas City for the GEA and NSPA National Journalism Conference. Students attended workshops on how to improve their publications, competed in media contests, and met thousands of other young journalists. In addition to the 4-day convention, they visited the Chief Stadium, the Harry Truman Presidential Library, and the National World War I Memorial. They had so much fun meeting other students, as you can see, many of whom are still friends. And as many of you know, Elmer's Tacos is right across the street from Chandler, and recently they celebrated their 50th anniversary and invited our football team along with them. They continue to be a big contributor to our success and our surrounding community, and a big part of the Chandler High community, and we were so glad to celebrate with them. For the first time in Chandler history, our Modaz Dance Company earned a triple distinction at the Arizona State Dance Festival, the equivalent of a perfect score. They recently had their final performance of the year, which was Radiance. We are so proud of all that they've done this year, and we can't wait to see what next year holds for them. They're all super excited, and such a young group, so it's going to be awesome. Our spring sports have been on a roll this season, with two of our track athletes, Otis Napper and Anaya Quarles, receiving both a $1,000 scholarship each from the Chandler Rotary at our annual Chandler Rotary tournament. Both baseball and softball have been on fire this year as well, and have their first playoff games going on right now against Alhambra and Sunnyside. We hope to see them come out on top. At the Wolf Howell Invitational, men's volleyball player Reed Scott finished in the top 6 and the gold bracket of the tournament. Not featured is our tennis team, who recently just had their first round of playoffs, and as a young team are excited to come back next year. Our theme for this year's prom was also Great Gatsby, and it was at the Children's Museum this year, which ended up raising and earning more money than last year's prom, and we continue to get more tickets each year. Right there is Reed Scott, mentioned earlier, our prom king, and our prom queen, Maya. Here is some student spotlight for you both, and they both are seniors. To the left here is Otis Napper, our senior class president, a member of BSU and NHS, who plans to attend Yale and continue his track career while majoring in engineering and dramatic arts. To his right is Pamela Rodriguez, our NHS vice president, president of the Chandler Cancer Society, Model United Nations, and vice president of Letters for Rose. She'll be attending Duke University as a public health major on the pre-med track. We're so proud of our seniors this year, and many other seniors as well, going to top universities around the school. So looking forward, Stuco plans to help out with Teacher Appreciation Week on campus, Senior Sunset on our last day of school, and our senior week, and graduation. So, yeah, I've had so much fun presenting this year, even though I do get a bit nervous. I'm not this nervous at assemblies, but it's much more smaller in here. But it's just been so much fun. Thank you to the board and Chandler Schools and Chandler High especially, and Stuco, because I would have never done Stuco coming to as a freshman to Chandler, but I tried something new and I loved it. So yeah, just thank you.
Lexi, before you go, would you tell us what you're going to do after graduation?
Yeah, so I plan to attend the University of Arizona, getting a dual degree in political science and economics on the pre-law track.
Very good. And I would just like to invite Riley and Lexi to our next board meeting on May 8th. Lexi and Riley, I hope you can come because we will have something for you at that meeting, okay? May 8th. Next, we will have our superintendent current events.
Thank you, President Muslim. Governing board members, yesterday was Bus Driver Appreciation Day. We're so thankful for our drivers and our bus attendants who just put in the extra mile every day, pardon the pun, but just go above and beyond. In many cases, bus drivers are the first and last staff members to see students during the school day, so they really make a difference for our children. They're also the ones that greet children when they're coming on the bus, so they kind of start their school day off well. If you or somebody you know is interested in being a school bus driver and making a difference in kids' lives, we hold drop-in interviews every Thursday from 12 to 3 p.m. at the transportation yard. The transportation yard is off of Ocotillo. Just bring your resume and a smile, and CUSD offers paid CDL training as well as benefits right from the start. As you can imagine, across the nation, we have bus driver shortages, and CUSD runs a lot of routes because our kids do very well in many things, and so we do need additional bus drivers. Chandler Unified students showcase their exceptional talents at the Arizona State Science and Engineering Fair. Despite representing only 3% of Arizona's student population, that's what we educate here, is 3% of the state's youth. Our students took home 1/3 or 34% of the state's award-winning projects. So 3% of our population accounts for 34% of all the awards that are brought home from the state. In addition, CUSD comprised 31.5% of the International Science and Engineering Fair, that's ISEF, qualifiers from Arizona. The ASEF, or the Arizona Science and Engineering Fair Awards event, showcased an impressive display of accomplishments, including 19 first-place winners, 19 second-place winners, and 22 third-place winners. So we have great representation moving forward. Chandler Unified School District is proud to celebrate 150 seniors in the class of 2024, 31 more than 2023, who earned fine arts seals on their diplomas. Students who have demonstrated high levels of proficiency in the Arizona arts education standards through personal expression and creative experiences receive the Arizona State Seal of Arts Proficiency seals. Reminder that the District Art Showcase is also going on now through May 9th in the gallery at the Chandler Center for the Arts. And that gallery, if you go into the Chandler Center of the Arts, is to the right. This is a free event for public, and it's a great way to see the talents of our students. Also, the students' artwork, some of it's for sale. So all you have to do is let them know, and It's really great stuff. So if you can get over there, that'd be wonderful. The staff and administration at ACP, or Arizona College Prep Middle School, celebrated the 2024 Arizona Educational Foundation's A+ School of Excellence designation on Friday. So we had a little assembly over there with all the kids. Traits of schools that earn this award include, but are not limited to, schools that model quality and equity, just demonstrate a strong commitment to academic excellence, and respond successfully to challenging environment of education. Our Rice Elementary School has also earned this distinction this year and will hold their celebration on Monday. And I believe Chandler Unified School District has the most A+ schools at 100, which is a fantastic record. We value our community partnerships and would like to quickly share a few upcoming opportunities for our students and community. The City of Chandler invites the public for a listening session to address teen violence. This is Monday, April 29th at the Chandler Nature Center from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And so that's in partnership with the City of Chandler, and the topic will be teen violence. So again, Monday, April 29th at the Chandler Nature Center from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The FBI Phoenix Division invites all interested Arizona high school incoming juniors and seniors to apply for the FBI Phoenix Teen Academy. The application deadline for both the academy locations is May 10th, 2024. So if we have any students out there that want to apply, and I'm sure you'll hear this at your schools as well, there is a deadline on there of May 10th. Finally, I want to remind our families that every month the CUSD Counseling and Social Services Department posts online a calendar of listen and learn events. The calendar is accessible 24/7 and features opportunities that highlight timely matters which families and students may need extra support in. So I would encourage them to look that up. And again, these are events that happen at different schools and different places across our school district. And finally, I want to thank all of our admin professionals out there. They do a yeoman's work of the job with our community and students and administrators, as well as staff. And so today is CUSD Admin Professionals Day, and one very special admin I'd like to recognize tonight is Veronica King, our board and superintendency admin. We keep her busy, so thank you, Veronica, for all you do. That's all for the updates.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our citizens' comments. Mrs. Ingersoll will introduce or start the session on citizen comments.
Thank you, President Marsden. This is the time for the public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, at the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask a matter be put on future agenda. However, members of the public body shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action.
Thank you, Mrs. Ingersoll. Tonight we have 9 speakers, so you will get the full 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Sierra Powers from Chandler, speaking on mental health.
Hello, esteemed members of the board. I'm Sierra Powers, and I'm a junior at Basha High School. I'm coming here today because I have been bullied by the Basha High School admin and band directors. Throughout this year, they have intentionally withheld me from extracurricular activities. Unfortunately, I could not take a daytime band class because of my decision to take AP Physics C Mechanics, along with about 15 other students in all of Basha High School and 3 other girls. However, I still wanted to be a member of the Basha Indoor Percussion Ensemble. However, the band directors informed me that I would not be allowed to participate in the Basha band program in the absence of a band class in my schedule. At which point, I decided to audition for an independent group and was luckily given the opportunity to perform with them. When the band directors found out, I was expecting enthusiasm and pride over the fact that I would be able to continue my musical journey and represent Basha at an independent level. Instead, the band directors refused to sign off and told me that I hadn't done enough for them as a performer. This broke my heart, but I was confident that where my former teachers had failed, the Basha admin would step up. I filled out an incident report form and told admin, and they did nothing except agreeing to meet with me and my parents. When I asked if they were punishing me for my career choices, they told me that if I wanted to interpret it that way, I could. When asked in a meeting about it by me and my parents, the principal, Mr. Reichel, along with the band directors, Mr. Denny and Mr. Shive, directly told me that the school was no longer about the well-being of the individual students, but instead about protecting the programs. In addition, when my father inquired about students participating in activities such as soccer as an outside program, Mr. Reichel asserted that they would not do anything to stop a student from pursuing that. I just want to be allowed to do band. Is that too much to ask? I wasn't sure I was going to come and speak at this board meeting until last week there was an announcement over the loudspeakers where the principal, Mr. Reichel, said that it is important to speak out against any form of bullying, no matter who or what it's from, including exclusion from activities. I took all the correct steps, and instead of being supported, I was dismissed and ashamed. If I cannot be supported by my former teachers, I should be supported by administration. If I cannot be supported by administration, I should be supported by this board. If I cannot be supported by this board, who can I be supported by? Please, esteemed members of the board, choose to stand out against the restriction of students in the Chandler Unified School District
30 seconds.
and support a student's right to prioritize passion and education. Support my right to choose. Thank you.
Next, we have Brett Wingate from Chandler on school fair.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I wanted to express my thanks for your participation at the school fair that happened earlier this month. It was a worthwhile event, one that we anticipate doing again. We're still working on timing. But I wanted to thank you for your participation. It made it a full-throated event where everybody got a chance to really see all of their choices and opportunities that they have going forward in education. You had 3 tables and 2 schools that were, I think, very representative of your district. And I just wanted to thank you for your participation and look forward to giving you more information next year about the event. We will have a new focus next year. We are going to try and make it an event that can help preschool parents as they make the journey into the public and private education system to help educate them and help make that transition one that's more informed. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Colton Landry on public comments from Phoenix.
Testing. Can you hear me? My name is Coulter Landry. On Saturday, I attended an event held at my old high school. One of the speakers at the event talked about the importance of adult role models who demonstrated honesty and integrity for kids to follow it. It reminded me of one of my favorite historical characters, Honest Abe, the 16th president. And now you understand why I'm dressed like him. Abe worked hard to become a man with integrity that served the community. One of his famous quotes is, "I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true, and I'm not bound to succeed. But I am bound to live by the light. I must stand with anybody that stands right and stand with him while he is right and part with him when he goes wrong." I am sharing these words today because Chandler School District is paying an administrator that does not have integrity or honesty. She was or is a principal who covered up a crime that profoundly hurt multiple students. Where is the accountability to employ a principal who violates her code of ethics as a teacher? It is shameful. How do you explain that choice to students? How can you employ that same teacher, give her a different job in the special education department and call her a coach? I find that especially offensive given the vulnerability of these students. Honest Abe thinks that's really shady. Explain it with complete honesty to all the students in East Valley who are watching and learning from these decisions.
Our next speaker is Shannon Hayes on policy.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Hayes, and I'm here to address the recent disciplinary action against Chai Levin, an 8th grader at Bogle Junior High. Chai was suspended for 10 days and referred for long-term suspension without a formal investigation. And this lack of due process is concerning and was also confirmed by Assistant Principal Kevin Chapin via phone, who stated that Chai was unable to provide his statement prior to these actions being taken. Mr. Chapin also expressed ongoing concerns about Chai being targeted by other students and has admitted that the staff needs more support to effectively manage student safety. This lack of supervision and support was evident with no staff, security, or SRO present during the time that he was assaulted on April 22nd after school. This raises significant questions about the fairness and thoroughness of the school's disciplinary procedures. When his mother asked about this lack of supervision, Ms. T, a security guard at Bogle, stated, "You can ask Amanda why they have us where they have us." Officer Service, the SRO, was recorded mocking the mother and deflecting blame by stating that they cannot be everywhere and that these kids are all over the place. He further pleaded with her to please tell CUSD we need more help and security. Given these circumstances, it is clear that the disciplinary actions taken against this student are unjust and look to be discriminatory in nature. To ensure a fair resolution, I am requesting a meeting as soon as possible with Superintendent Narducci, Craig Gilbert, Amanda Cook, and Kevin Chapin for a thorough review of the school video footage, all witness statements, and the district's practices to rectify all discrepancies between policy and action.
Our next speaker is CJ. Okay, we will move on. Oh.
On Monday, April 22nd, I'm in class talking to a young lady, and while I'm talking to her, another student comes and sits down next to me and says that we are fighting after school. And he says I better walk to Dobson Park to fight him after school. I say, no, I'm not fighting you, and then I go on with my day. Then I'm walking out to where my mom picks me up, where me and my friends usually chill for 5+ minutes till our parents pick us up. Then while I'm walking, another student says, what's up, with his hands ready to fight, and I say, bro, we are not fighting. While I say that, he punches me in my mouth, so I defend myself. I'm supposed to be in school right now. I have to be here because Bogle staff members failed to protect me, and now are trying to cover it up by expelling me. He sucker punched me, and it was my mother who initially stopped him from hitting me again.
I love you so much. And I want to tell you something. And I want you to never forget this. For the rest of your life, as long as I'm living, I will always be there for you, to protect you, and to make sure that you are doing the right thing and giving back to society as you could still be doing if they didn't target you. You never be scared. You have to stand up for yourself, and you do it with respect, and you do it with facts. Do you understand me? I'm sorry that we had to do this. I'm sorry
Thank you. Saren?
Hello. On April 22nd, 2024, upon arrival, I see my brother get hit from another student. My brother defended himself like so. I thought my brother was play fighting, so I didn't get out the car fast enough until I saw him bleeding heavily. What's crazy is this student decided to plan a fight, which my brother during school hours said no to. A 10-day suspension isn't right because this is obviously premeditated. There was no security again. My mom and me and sister had to jump out to separate them. Instead of trying to de-escalate the situation, officer service was making a mockery out of the situation and being unprofessional. They were fighting for about 45 seconds before security got there. Everyone was standing there and recording instead of having them get back on campus and getting 6 police cars on my family. My brother's lip was heavily bleeding, and my mom was only recording for her own safety. They both had no weapons. Unfortunately, due to white privilege and police advantages, there was nothing being done about the fact that my brother was attacked. Officer service made my family seem like the aggressors.
Whew.
And Sedina.
I'm sorry. Someone just said I have it. Before I read my statement, because I do tend to go off on a tangent, that was my problem when I was talking in school. I don't have it. Right now, my safety, my socioeconomic security, and everything is at risk because I had to come protect my Black children. And this is the first time that I'm using the word Black children because prior to this, I tried to see the good in society and think that things are equal. But until I got to Arizona, I saw how rough they really are, and it needs to change. I have 5 kids in this school district. I've been with you for 8 years, from when your teacher threw my daughter's desk on the floor, from when your teacher said that my son would end up in jail when he was in the 3rd grade, from when your teacher stopped my daughter from performing a positive rap song, from when your teachers continue to push racial discrimination towards my kids. From when I had to stay at your school, because as a single Black mom of 5, that we make choices in life, you're not responsible for that, but I have to do the best to make sure that despite the resources that I have, that my children still have a chance in society. And I would expect that Chandler Unified District would support that. I expect that you would adhere to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and not isolate and not push people forward and criminalize them because they stick up or because they sound like they're from New York. Now, I am appalled by what happened because we know that September 2022, I was trespassed from your premises for 5 months. And when they interviewed me, I decided to stay private because I have 5 kids. And if I speak up, it could ruin my life. It could ruin my kids' life. It could ruin the opportunity for me to take care of them. But I'm not scared after what happened on Monday. My son was assaulted by another student, a white male, nearly twice his size and build, hit my son directly in the mouth. My son said he didn't want to fight. It was a sneak attack and there was no security or staff present to intervene. Upon arriving at the school on April 22nd, 2024 to pick up my child, I was shocked to witness the attack unfolding and had to think quickly to ensure my son's safety and the other child's safety because children are still children. I separated the two
30
and was
seconds.
able to prevent a potentially tragic outcome for my son. My child was visibly injured, heavily bleeding from the mouth, and no one did nothing. Where was your security? It is alarming that there was no one on site to prevent the altercation, yet the SRO from Bogle was present at the home of the attacker, increasing intentions unnecessarily, working with the parent and issuing a trespass on me and my son. I request a thorough
Time has
investigation
expired.
into this matter and the immediate reinstatement of my son to the school and his previous track meet record published alongside his other teammates, as his name was not there, although he already did the race.
Ms. Levine, your time has expired. I would, Mr. Narducci, do you have someone, a staff member that
they can speak with this evening, or will you be taking care of this?
We'll go ahead and invite you in with the parties you talked about, Mrs. Hayes, and we'll look at it at that with a review. Okay?
Thank you for your
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening. Our next speaker is Bridget Vega, Teen Violence. Not here? Okay. Oh, sorry.
On behalf of the family, before we start the clock, on behalf of the family, CJ, sorry for everything that you experienced and endured. Everyone who is in the audience who took video of the minors, on behalf of the family, they do not want that posted on social media for the protection of the children. Good evening, CUSD. Still, we have yet to see any action by the leaders to create a safe space for the children. We must confront the uncomfortable truths that this has continued for years and years. The culture of turning a blind eye and looking the other way on campus issues can only be perpetuated by the decision makers, Dr. Falloon and Dr. Nance. We demand an external audit of HR practices. As a community, our concern is, why are there people that are mandated reporters and still allowed someone to get hazed get promoted? Why are there mandated reporters that allowed someone to get jumped get promoted? Somebody who molested 7 girls was allowed to resign. We can sit here and be mad at everyone and point fingers, but the reality is leadership continues to be bystanders and allows this behavior to continue to perpetuate. The only way this culture of complicity and corruption remains to continue to happen is because the 2 people in HR willfully neglect the children and allow this culture to be normalized and desensitized, and the lack of accountability. And then Frank Narducci, as another mandated reporter, continues to allow negligence to happen and turn a blind eye as well. In the meantime, so many children are suffering and crying out for help. We have no future if we don't protect the children. We have a duty to protect the innocent. If not, that blood is on our hands. Please continue to keep all of the families in your prayers. If we can take a moment of silence for Preston Lord and all of the teens who've been assaulted mentally, physically, sexually, and all of the youth that was wrongfully murdered due to senseless acts of violence. And we'll finish the time with a moment of silence. Justice for the youth.
Sorry. Our last speaker this evening is Luann Savolt on cell phones.
I'm going to pass on the topic of cell phones and just speak for just a minute. I'm going to do that another time. You know, for every person that comes and speaks on a topic, there are many, many people that do not come and talk about their issue or their concern. So I really commend people for coming and speaking out about their issue in front of a group like this, because it takes a lot of thought and preparation. And I want to commend you all for listening and give us the opportunity, and I will speak on that other topic another time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our citizens' comments this evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We really do appreciate hearing your experiences and and you sharing those experiences with us. Thank you. Next, we will have our consent agenda. Mr. Narducci.
Madam President, members of the board, I present to you the consent agenda as printed and published for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as published and presented.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Does the board have any questions that were not answered on the consent agenda? If not, okay. All those in favor of our consent agenda, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Next, we will go on to our action items. And this evening, our first item is the annual comprehensive financial report for 2023. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the board, the annual comprehensive financial report, the ACFR, and single audit report package, the SARP, for the year ending June 30th, 2023 is presented for approval. Also presented are the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire, the USFR, and the questionnaire findings response. So tonight we're very fortunate to have Joshua Jumper with us. Josh is an amazing auditor. We really enjoy working with him and his firm. But he's going to actually go through the audit with you. I would also recommend if you have any questions, you are welcome to come in and review the audit. You have a few different things. You have the actual annual comprehensive financial report. You have the single audit. Then you have the PowerPoint. You also have a response to the USFR, which there's 170 questions in the USFR that these auditors come for a whole week. Oops, sorry about that. A whole week in June, typically, or sometime in the summer. And then they also come back in the fall again for another week, and then they do a number of weeks of work offsite. As you know, we're the second largest school district in Arizona. We have a number of different funds that have guidelines on how revenues are received, how expenditures can be spent in each fund, and a lot of processes and procedures that we have to follow according to the law. And so Josh and Heinfeld and Meach do a great job auditing us. We go out to bid. We do a request for proposal every 5 years with the opportunity. It's a contract for 1 year with the opportunity to renew each year up to 5 years. And they have done an excellent job for us over a number of years now. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh and let him talk about our audit.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Narducci. My name is Joshua Jumper. I'm pleased to be here this evening to present the audit results for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. I have a handful of slides. I'll keep my comments brief, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have as I go over my prepared.
Mr. Jumper, could you perhaps move the microphone a little closer to you? Thank you.
My apologies. So just to start, similar to what Ms. Berry's already spoken to, but we're external auditors. The audit contract is procured through competitive proposal process. In fiscal 23, the audit year I'm presenting on was the third year of the audit contract that we had with the district. Just speaking to the audit timeline for the annual audit. So the engagement letter, which initiates the audit, was signed in May 2023. We came on site in June 2023 and performed some preliminary audit procedures. We came back on site in October 2023 and performed additional audit procedures in alignment with the submission of the AFR. In November, a draft of the audit report was sent to management for their review, and the annual comprehensive financial report was issued in December. So this is summarizing the actual audit reports issued. So we have a communication to governance letter, which is included in your packet, which I'll touch on in a minute. The annual comprehensive financial report, which includes the district's audited financial statements. The single audit reporting package, and the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire, the USFR. So just the scope of our audit services. So we perform an audit in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and uniform guidance. So we follow a lot of standards. And we complete the Uniform System of Financial Records, the Compliance Questionnaire, which is provided by the Arizona Auditor General.
Before you go any further, what's uniform? Go back up a minute. Uniform guidance? I haven't heard of that term.
Thank you. Uniform guidance is federal requirements. So it's due to the district requiring a single audit due to receiving federal dollars and spending federal dollars. Uniform guidance is just going to the federal requirements. So just discerning our responsibilities as the external auditor and the responsibilities of management. We do fraud communications with a number of district employees. And the annual audit is designed to provide reasonable, not absolute assurance. And management is ultimately responsible for the financial statements. So there were no audit adjustments necessary for known or likely misstatements for this fiscal year. So just pleased to report that and just wanted to highlight that item. And just also wanted to disclose that we do provide, as part of our audit contract, some non-audit services. So we, with the information provided by the district, we help the compilation of the financial report. Other required communications, so we had no disagreements with management over financial accounting, reporting, or other audit matters. And just on our end, we are continually assessing to ensure we're compliant on our end for our requirements. So the annual comprehensive financial report is the largest document you have, just highlighting certain pages with certain information. Page 13, the independent auditor's report. So I'm pleased to present that the audit report is unmodified, which is accounting lingo. So in layman's terms, that's a clean opinion. So the financial statements were unmodified. So the single audit reporting package is required to be submitted to the federal government due to the district receiving federal grants and expending those federal grants. So pleased to report that there were no findings noted in that report this year. The federal programs we did test this year: Child Nutrition Cluster, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, and the Education Stabilization Fund. And then finally, the Uniform System of Financial Records, the USFR. So again, this is issued and required to be completed for every Arizona school district by the Arizona Auditor General and submitted to them. And there are over 170 questions that we're required to test and answer and submit to the AG. So those are my prepared remarks. I believe Ms. Berry also has another document over certain things related to the USFR.
Yes. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. So there are a few findings that I would like to cover with you. So the USFR, the 170 questions that he's talking about, is what they come in a sense, between that and the single audit and putting our financial comprehensive annual financial report together. That's what takes them all, him and his entire team, the weeks that they come on site and then the weeks that they spend off site. One thing that we always really focus on are the audit findings, because I always think in audit, not only is it great to be transparent and show what the school district is doing, but also it helps you get better internally. And so that's something that we are always looking at is how can we get better? And with 5,000 employees and a lot of people touching lots of different funds, student attendance, student activity money, all kinds of things that we have to record, fiscal assets, all of those things. There's a lot of people who touch it and record it. So first off, I wanted to say our staff does a great job, and I'm really proud of our staff. They're always learning, they're always growing, and they're always willing to listen to try to get better at things. And so is there always room to get better? Absolutely. But our team has done a great job, and I think that this report really shows that. When you look that we only have 6 findings, that's pretty incredible, and 3 of those are student attendance, and those are I don't know anybody who doesn't have a student attendance report out of the 225 districts. There could be one, but I don't think there's very many because student attendance is very difficult. And you have a lot of people touching student attendance on a daily basis. So we have 6 findings just very quickly. Those are in the document called USFR compliance questionnaires. The first one is recorded. It was related to a payroll issue. There was 6 employees that didn't come to the governing board for the extra pay for community ed last summer. So every time those employees obviously are brought to you to be hired, but when there is additional work, and we have lots of those things throughout the district, stipends for different things or additionally hourly work, those have to come back to you. For that payment for those individuals, we did not bring that back to the board in the summer. And that was the community education grant that was for summer enrichment that we received at the very end and put in place very quickly. And so that is a finding because we didn't bring back that hourly amount. It's already approved. The schedules were approved, those pieces, but we didn't bring their name back showing that they'd be working in that summer grant for additional dollars. So that was a finding. There was a finding last year, and it carried over to this year. It was the second finding related to our student clubs and organizations fundraising events. So every fundraiser comes to you for approval, like you have the list of current fundraisers that are approvals for next year. We actually didn't know that we had certain things a year ago. We didn't know we hadn't brought some of those things to the board for approval. So last year we found that out in our audit. It was during this period of time when we were going through the compliance questionnaire, and so we brought it to the board. But now when they're testing last year, we didn't bring that to the board until last year at the end. So the test work for last year prior to that has findings, and so you're going to see that. And that's just because we found out about it at the end of last year. We put into place the process to bring it back to the governing board, but when you do test work in an audit from a year back, and we didn't have that in place yet, we're going to see that. You won't see that in the future because we now bring those back a year in advance. So all of those will be covered. Number 3, expenditures on, as you know, we have a very specific procurement rules and guidelines that are outlined by statute. And in our community education department, we had some disbursements to a vendor through community ed, where they had, in the beginning of the summer, they had emailed the vendor saying that they would be participating with our community education staff. They billed us during that, but the purchase order wasn't then issued until August the 2nd. And they did have emails, but they can't promise somebody something without the purchase order. So it's constant training with, with our administrative assistants and our directors to make sure that they put the purchase order in before they make any commitment. So the email isn't a commitment. The only commitment we have by statute is the actual purchase order. And so even though we have an email in place, we didn't have the purchase order, and they dated the invoice the day that the email went out asking to secure the field trips for community education. Number 4, 5, and 6 are to do with student attendance. We have 3 findings in that area, which is a huge area, since we have every single one of our schools has attendance clerks recording not only the enrollment of students, but every day they're putting in all their absences. So number 4 is about student absences, and as you know, it's changed. We get funded based on average daily membership, which is students who attend our schools day 1 through 100. If you're in school from day 1 to 100, you get full funding for that student. If you come on day 10, finish through the entire school year, you get 90% funding for that kid. If you come on day 101 and finish the rest of the school year, you get 0 funding for that kid. So it all depends on the time frame the student attends our school district during the day 1 through 100. This one is on attendance. So we don't get financially dinged for attendance. I've been in this role in a CFO of a school district now. This is my 24th year. And then when I first started, you would get penalized if you had more than or less than 93% attendance on a regular basis. They got rid of that rule probably about 15 to 20 years ago, but we still have guidelines on attendance. And part of that is very important. We want parents to know when their kids are in school and not in school. And so how you report attendance is based on the Arizona Department of Education's criteria. And so if you need to record specifically, if you're out at a specific time, ADE says you have to record it as a half day or a full day. We try to do things a little bit different in our district, like in our high school. If a kid comes for 30 minutes of a class period out of 60, we then say they were there for that period, and we don't make the phone call home. But ADE is saying if you are gone 1 minute out of that class period, you have to report them absent. We try to do what we think is best for our families when reporting out to be convenient and to help those families make decisions, because a lot of times, for example, if you had a dentist appointment and your kid comes in 5 minutes late and brings in a note, you have to report him absent for that period, even though if he's there for 55 minutes. So there's different criteria. We have a calculator. We have guidance that we give out to our attendance clerks and try to make that specific, but it doesn't always align with ADE, and so we're going to get a finding. We don't get penalized for that, but our associate superintendent, Craig Gilbert, and our team has worked for years on trying to find what's great for Chandler, and we get a finding on that every year. So that's what findings 4 and 5 are, because they test our regular population and our JTED students, and it's the exact same finding because of how we report when they left that day. If we don't report them absent for 1 minute, and we only reported them absent if they were longer than 30, then we are not doing exactly what ADE has on that piece for absentee. So we get that finding, and we've had it every single year. The last one is based on the number 6 is student attendance reporting. This one is related to our online program. There were 3 students that they found when they tested that they didn't have student intended full-time equivalency enrollment statements. So these students are supposed to, their families, they're online, they're not here in person. They're supposed to fill out a form that says they want to be full-time or part-time enrolled, and they need to turn that form back in. And we have a difficult time sometimes getting kids when they're not on our campuses to turn those forms back in. We need to constantly train staff. I think as the year goes on, we already know what they're in. They're in part-time, they're in full-time, we know the classes they're in, and so then we don't go back and always get that statement. And it's just something that ADE requires us to have in their folder, was the parent's intent for full-time equivalency, or if they're going to be in our online program. So just constant, there's always ways to get better. We work with our registers once a month. We also have a gentleman who's in charge of our ADM. He's our ADM specialist. He works with specific people. If there's an error created, or if you can see errors that are happening, he works with them. And then we have 2 staff members here who are great that work with elementary and secondary, and they're constantly working with our registers. Those ladies and gentlemen work really hard, but there's always lots of little pieces of clerical things that they're typing in and out, and ultimately we find a few ADM issues. But for the most part, 6 findings are really good, and I'm always very happy. You could ask Josh, but I think that's a really good amount, very few amount of findings, especially for the 2nd largest school district in Arizona. So very happy with our financial statements.
Thank you, Lana. So could I please get a motion to approve the annual comprehensive?
Actually, I had a couple questions.
We'll do that after the motion is made.
I see.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the annual comprehensive financial statement for 2023.
And the single audit. And we'll second it. Thank you. So, Mr. Roars, go ahead. Start with your question.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to put this in context, and maybe the first 3 of them, but, there were half a dozen mistakes made, but I see these things in our reports all the time by the dozens, maybe hundreds. Can you give us an idea of, 6 mistakes were made, out of how many entries do we typically do in a year?
Josh, do you know the number of entries we do? How many? Oh, God. I know we do around 10,000 purchase orders, just for example, in a year. So that's a great point, Mr. Roars. We also have, payroll transactions. We have 5,000 employees, and we touch them multiple times, not only for their contract, but multiple employees, work additional stipends, additional duties if they're at a football game, or they do a professional development class, or they come and work summer school. There's so many other additional pieces. Performance pay is paid off of that with Prop 301. And so I don't even know how many payroll transactions there are. And then on top of that,
it's thousands.
It's thousands,
Okay.
yes.
So my point being, in fact, I don't know how you found the 6 out of the thousands of transactions. That also goes for number 2. There were some club funds that on the cash receipts, and that's always been a point of concern because there's some really bad stuff that's happened in the past. But again, how many transactions are we talking about? Because I usually get pages and pages of these.
Sure. There's thousands of transactions. And the fundraiser one wasn't that anything got done wrong with the fundraisers. It was just that the list hadn't got brought to the governing board to approve the fundraisers. So we didn't know to do that until last year. And so we have all the approval process where the students do it, the club, the teacher, the principal, and then one of the associate superintendents, but we hadn't taken the list back to the governing board. We didn't know we were required to do that until last year. And so last year, I think it was in June, we brought it to you for approval of last year, and we brought together this year. So you won't see that, but the reason there's a finding is because we didn't know about it until the spring, but it wasn't that anything was done wrong in any of those funds. It was ultimately that we didn't bring the item here as an approval of the fundraiser to the governing board.
Okay, and the very last one, really the same comment in the community education department. They were taking kids that looks like to a movie or something.
Yeah.
Or a play, maybe. And it looks like they just messed up the paperwork. But again, how many transactions we typically do, and if they only messed up 3 of them, maybe that's an indication that we're doing pretty well.
Thank you. That's a great point. And I think it's just constant training because they're arranging those assignments, but they just got to remember to make sure that they communicate with the facility that their email is not a contract, that the purchase order will follow, and that is their contract. And so it's constantly, because we have so many people communicating with different vendors, it's a constant training for us. Procurement, we had last year, we did all of our administrators, all of our admin assistant, we made everybody from the cabinet. Like, it is something on a regular basis that we do, and we constantly need to get better at. But thank you. We do tons and tons of transactions in every category, and we have great teams everywhere that really work hard, and they take pride in what they do. So we're really, really happy with our staff and them
appreciate
taking
your diligence. You're only surpassed by their diligence because I can't even see how they found these things out of all those thousands and thousands of transactions. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a comment.
So, Mr. Worth.
It's my standard yearly comment. Unfortunately, when there's a 92-page financial report, nobody in this room can understand it. And that's what I'm discouraged by my profession and how they do that. So.
I have a question.
Mr. Olive, do you have some questions?
Yeah, so does the state ever come back and relook at ADE, counting ADE when there's discrepancies in attendance?
Yes, so there, if you have a lot of findings in attendance and it's reported, that's why the USFR questionnaire is so important. If you have a number of those issues, and the state, they review this, and if they think you have a major issue at their district, they'll issue you a 915 letter where you have to say how you're going to get in compliance, and if not, the state can come in and take over.
So if it's like systematic, they come in and...
Yes.
Okay.
So there have been districts, especially in the area of attendance, there in reconciliations, in fixed assets. That's where I've seen the biggest areas in cash problems. I could be wrong. Is there other areas you've seen where the states kind of came in?
Those are the major ones. The Auditor General, the Arizona Auditor General will, again, they'll look at all the USFRs that get submitted by all the school districts, and they'll use their own determination. I don't know what that would be. It's their own discretion, but if they see significant areas or significant issues in certain areas, they will do further things on their end, or even come out and do their own performance audit over that area.
The other thing that does take place, Jason, is that we have audits by ADE on our attendance, and then there's also the performance audit done by the Auditor General, every like 10 to 15 years, and that's the big audit that comes in and looks at efficiencies in your district. We haven't had one for 10 to 15 years now, so we'll probably be due to have one pretty soon. But the ADE and the Auditor General does the performance audit and will come in if there's any other issues, and ADE does do a number of audits. They also do, for example, on all of our entitlements, we do a Title 4, we're in the cycle, and they do an audit on us, like we're in Cycle 4, they come in and do an audit on our Title 1, Title 2, Title 3, Title 4.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to comment too that, in years past, we'd always seen some discrepancies, I guess, with cash deposits and things being done late. And I'm very happy to see that we aren't seeing that this year, because that does also show that the district's internal controls and the staff training for cash deposits and things that we see from football games and other activities is that training has paid off and it is working well. And I commend your team for that. I also remember that a number of years ago, we bought the Vision software. And prior to that, there was a lot of issues with not being able to find some of our capital assets within the district. And I just want to commend the staff for not having any findings on that, because everything is now being tracked. We know where it is. And I think that has... even though Visions was a lot of money for that software package, I think that it has really allowed our district to know exactly where we stand with all of our capital assets.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Joel had hired a lady named Vicki Donovan to start that project, and then we actually hired Lauren Randall, and that was her first project, was to start working on the physical assets and getting the BMI software system going that integrated then eventually with Business Plus and Visions. And she's done a great job, and then she's handed it over to Kelly and Amy, and our team has really done a great job getting that up to speed. So very proud of our team, but thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of approving the comprehensive financial reporting package for 2023 school year, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Mr. Jumper, and I guess we'll see you again next year.
Thanks, Josh.
Next, we have our contract increase for community education enrichment programs.
All right.
Dr. Nance.
My turn. We have to make a motion first, right?
We already voted.
Oh, no, didn't we move on?
She has to present on number 6.02, contract increase community education enrichment
I
programs.
thought we always had to have a motion first, then have a discussion.
Wendy's going to present it. She hasn't presented the item yet.
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, the governing board approved a request for proposal for the community ed enrichment programs. As a reminder, when we initially did this request for proposal was identifying the list of vendors who qualified that we could work with for our after-school enrichment programs. Originally, you extended it in November 2023 up to $1.1 million. The district's requesting an approval of additional $295,000 for a new total amount of $1.395 million for the remainder of this fiscal year. That $295,000, for your information, is the remainder of the ESSER funds that were given to us federally that expire at the end of June 30th that we would like to continue to use. However, they exceed the cap of $1.1 million, which is why we're requesting that extension up. Through district-wide efforts to expend out these funds, community education has experienced an increase in CUSD enrollment. In addition, community education collectively has also presented multiple offerings, programs, and classes that have driven these higher enrollments. As an example, Kids Express summer camps are currently at maximum capacity and will be offering STEAM enrichment for those students enrolled. In addition, your recent extension helped us reach over 2,000 more students and 142 programs in our Title I schools on this side of the district. We are requesting approval of an additional $295,000 for the new total amount of $1,395,000 for the remainder of this 2023-24 fiscal year. Funds used will be ESSER.
Thank you, Dr. Nance. Could I please get a motion?
Let me try it.
Go ahead,
Get it
Mr.
right
Worth.
this time. Request approval to additional $295,000 for the Community Education Enrichment Program.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Yes, Mr. Mr. Kurose, yes, thank you. Yeah.
So actually, I had asked this to be moved from the consent agenda over to the action agenda because I thought I was actually in the wrong place. Not that I'm opposed to it, but things on the consent agenda should be routine or recurring. An example is that the student travel pre-planning report is routine. It's on there every time. Financial and departmental reports should be on there. Things that have been previously agreed on but need to be confirmed by the board. Things that are for information only, and then actually minutes of previous meetings should probably be on there. But my question is, and you talked about this is the remainder of the ESSER funds that we need to use up before the end of the year, or we lose them.
Correct. If we do not use them, the funds just disappear.
Use it or lose it, okay. So these are actually being moved over into that account so we could use them. Is that correct?
Community ed, well, yes, Barry can answer that, but
So just for clarification, what you see when you see these is they're a purchase order. So we did a request for a proposal, and the first time we bring it back, we bring it to you. We think that's the amount we're going to spend. It's not the budget. It's just the amount that we put on that purchase order. And for items over $100,000, we bring those to you to get approved. And so when we originally did the purchase order in community ed for the request for proposal, we put a purchase order together for a certain allocation. Once we know we have more programs, a lot of times we're shifting in the budget. We might not do something in one area or another area, and then we're increasing that purchase order. So this is a purchase order increase, and it's so that we can utilize funds in that grant that we weren't using in a different other area, and now we have a lot of kids who are participating in something, and so we'll increase that purchase order. That happens a lot. Like when you see these on, if you go back to all other agenda items, they're proposals that we already got approval for, but ultimately it's just the dollar amount and we have to increase the purchase order. A lot of times we make an estimate of what we think we're going to spend, and then we come back to you because it's increased. Now, it could be because supplies increased, purchase service increased, participation increased, but ultimately it's so that we don't try to put huge purchase orders together, because then that caps us on what we can spend in other areas. So once we know where our budgets are at, and if we can move money, we'll increase a purchase order at the end of the year to expense a budget. But it's not necessarily a budget increase, it's just increasing how much we have on a purchase order.
I think I get it. So, but in this particular case, it's actually more, in a practical sense, a sweep of federal funds over into here so we could use it. Is that accurate?
I think
Kind
at
of
this
accurate?
point, what I understand, and Scott can probably communicate on this also, but we decided to utilize all of our ESSER funds, and we have a lot of kids who are participating in an area, so we were able to utilize that instead of taking another area. You can spend 10% more in all the different areas. We could have spent it in a different area. We decided that we wanted to finish the area of ESSER funds in community education because we have such a huge need for that right now.
Yeah, I
Barry,
understand.
if I can, Ms. Rohr, so when the ESSER funds came in 3 years ago, we met with public and took surveys of where those monies should be spent. One of the areas, or one of the strategies, was to create more enrichment programming in STEAM and other areas in our district and across the district, especially targeting our schools that receive title funding, because many parents can't pay for that. And so the strategy is still there through the end of it. So to say sweeping it, it's basically just reallocating funds where they can best be used among the 9 strategies that we had approved.
Okay, reallocation.
Yeah, so the reallocation isn't a strategy that.
So in the community ed space, we actually charge for some of those things. Do we get any more revenue out of this because we added programs?
There's
parents
there's revenue over
pay
cost,
revenue.
but many of our programs are provided by outside vendors. And also contracted individuals that contract directly through community education. And so there's a cost to that. There's cost to supplies as well. So the ESSER money really did help us to be able
I understand
to
the cost,
provide
but
that, yeah.
sometimes we charge for these things. we charge parents to be involved in the programs that we offer.
Yeah, there's a participation fee.
All right, so there was some additional revenue that came in because of this.
Yeah, but the cost over is pretty narrow.
So you're saying it's minimal?
Yeah, it depends on how many kids participate.
All right, that's fine.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
No? Okay. All those in favor of the additional
Ms. Muslin, can I
Yes.
just interrupt one second?
Yes.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry to do the script, but I want you to have the right information. So the ESSER funds were used in our title schools for parents not to pay. So they were used. There was not a charge on top of that. I just thought it was, I wanted to clarify. Okay.
Thank you. So with that, are there any more questions? No. Okay. So all those in favor of the additional $295,000 for the community ed programs, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Next, we have a memorandum of understanding between Ascend and CUSD. Mr. Narducci.
Madam President, members of the board, the memorandum of understanding between Chandler Unified School District and Ascend will operate a family resource center and offer programs at the San Marcos Elementary School site, where families will have access to the resource center as well as preschool type programs to help get students and families prepared for kindergarten and elementary school. We've had a partnership with Ascend for decades, and we're having the opportunity through this MOU to be able to duplicate services that we do over at the Care Center on that side of town, so to make sure that zip codes 85224 and 85225 are properly covered with early childhood programming, and that they exist close to our schools where our parents depend on and pretty much depend on walking to those schools to get there. And so we're asking for approval of the MOU.
Thank you.
24-25 school year, sorry.
Thank you. Could I please get a motion?
I'd like to request approval of the district contracted services through Ascend for the fiscal year 24-25.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Mr. Roars.
Okay. And again, I moved this off the consent agenda because I think I wanted the public to know we're doing this. This is a good thing. And being able to offer more programs, and particularly preschoolers, in an attempt to get them reading faster. Okay. So, but being a new program, I think we need to have this an action item. And it's not necessarily for our knowledge, but I want the public to know that we're doing this. And that's why we probably should be discussing these as action items.
Sure. Public has access to the consent agenda too, and what we could do is also give more narrative to that consent agenda. But an MO usually goes through the board for questions, but I do appreciate you bringing it here. The AZSEND program has been delivering this program, but at their site, so that whole site's going to move over, which we're really happy that their staff will actually come with it too. And so we're looking forward to it, and I agree with you. It's a great opportunity for our San Marcos area. Our care center also is a family resource center too, and that serves the Galveston area as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Worth.
So has Ascend been a program in the past, or is this brand new?
Yes, but they've been offering the services at their site. There's more need than there's more need right now in our community, especially in 8224 and 8225. I know a lot of other folks in other parts of our district, they may see that everything prospers well, but there's a big need for early literacy. And a big fact is that the kids that need access to preschools and quality preschools by certified teachers don't usually get access. So these opportunities allow us to reach down to 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and in some cases, moms who just had children, they offer programs in reading, like Better Books and et cetera. So we see the family resource is not just literacy, but it's also helping families in need, and another point of being able to help a family maneuver through obstacles that they're having to ensure that their children come to school ready to learn.
So, Mr. Narducci, we're just basically, how many classrooms are they, or how many groups are they were there at Ascend, and are they going to be bringing the same number over?
Thinking, I know
just
Tom
moving
Bennett
it to
went over with his team to see how the school would be utilized, but I think it was 3. They have some office spaces that they need. We're also trying to work with them on having parking that they would be able to have secluded for their folks, because a lot of times parents will come in, and we're trying to keep that flow, and they'll use a couple of bathrooms that will be outside of the school use of the students. So, and San Marcos, as we know, has space, and what we're trying to do is partner with community agencies that work with our communities to try to relocate them where we have space, so that it's an easier access for people to be able to get services.
And then, obviously, it's freeing up some additional space at Ascend's facilities.
For them, they're busting at the seams, and it'll allow them to expand their programming, but there's a big need for that as well.
Okay, which then ends up benefiting our families.
Because remember,
and-
Ascend works with early literacy all the way to seniors and senior care. Not seniors in high school, but seniors in society.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Nope. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of approving the MOU with Ascend for the 24-25 school year, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next, we have a contract increase for warehouse stock. I believe that Lana's going to do that. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the board, the governing board approved IFB, which is an invitation for bid, April 2024 for warehouse stock support service, with estimated expenditures of $450,000 on June 28th, 2023. The district is requesting approval for an additional $60,000 for a new total amount of $510,000 for additional supplies for the remainder of the 23-24 year. So again, it's just requesting more on, in a sense, the purchase order, the amount that we can spend in that on that. We come in June and for the next fiscal year, so we had you approve it back in June of last year for this fiscal year, and we just have additional amounts that we need to stock up for the rest of this fiscal year. So we just need to increase that purchase order up to $510,000, and it's part of his overall budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Could I get a motion, please?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the increase in warehouse stock in the order of $60,000 for the rest of the year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Rohrs, do you have any questions?
Of course I do. Actually, the first one is, this has a designation as IFB 04-24-24, which happens to be today's date. Is that actually a date?
No, that's how we number them in our systems. That's our own record-keeping systems.
That's just a coincidence.
That's, well, yeah, that's just, yes.
That's bizarre. Okay. All right. So again, you know, my point was the same as I made before. Contract increases, valid or not, need to come before the board to be approved so we know about the spending. And this is warehouse spending, which I think is very general. Light bulbs, toilet paper, pencils, whatever. Hundreds, if not thousands of items. So you approved it last June for $450,000 and you're off by about 60, which actually is probably pretty good. Do we know exactly where the overrun was or why we had an overrun?
So what we could do is just ask you for permission to do $700,000 in the year and back those off at the very end of the year and not have to come back to you for approval every year. But we try to get as close as we can based on last year's numbers. But as you know, supplies and inflation has gone up a lot. So as we purchase those items, they're more expensive, just like they are at your home. They are for us too. Inflation, unfortunately, is not going down and hasn't gone down, right, in that sense. And so we know that expenses have gone up.
This wasn't any particular item.
No, there's just multiple items, right. And we also, our facilities are getting older. There's two factors going on. We have an older facilities as things are getting replaced and we're maintaining those. And then also the cost of the increase of supplies. So we've accounted for that within our budgets, but we are now, we stock up, obviously, and that's why we have the warehouse for those items, and then he has the ability to just go pick those up and ultimately has that for his.
So we'll have another budget item at the end of this fiscal year going into the next fiscal year And you're anticipating that number to be, well, more than 450, I imagine.
So I'm not asking you for a budget increase. This has nothing to do with the budget.
I'm talking about next year, though.
Oh, yes, next year.
Yeah, because this ends at the end of this
Not
fiscal year.
always, not always.
Not
Sometimes
always.
you're moving money from your budget into that line item. This is about requests for proposals and IFPs. So they're bids that we put in that you approve. And we just do an ultimate amount that we think we're going to spend in those areas. And we have to bring that to you because it's $100,000. If we have to do more than that, we have to ask your permission for it.
So this has nothing to do with the fiscal year then?
It has to do with the fiscal year. It just doesn't have to do specifically. I'm not moving a budget, and that's I think where some of your questions have came from. It's not a budget. It's just specifically the amount we have on that request for proposal or that IFB. And so we came and said we think we're going to spend IFB? 450. Yes, invitation for bid. That's why I stated in the beginning. I know those are hard, so sorry about that. Okay. The IFBs are there. That's a IFB compares apples to apples. So when you bid that, you have to do a comparison. Who you accept is based on cost.
Well, I had in my mind that those things would more or less match up with the fiscal, the budget and RFP, IFP would kind of match up. And I know you're doing the best you can. It's not a criticism you didn't get it to the penny, but.
Because it's supposed to adjourn at 8:30, and you give parents 2 minutes to talk about things. Okay, well, this is not time either for them to.
Well, this is a business meeting.
This is ridiculous. I mean.
Okay, to restate my question. Yes. I know you're doing the best you can, and I'm not trying to criticize you didn't get it to the penny, but I'm trying to match those things up in my mind. Is that futile or what?
Sure. We will, I think one thing that we're trying to do is we try to come to you when we ask for a dollar amount. We're trying not to come back. Our intentions are not to come back, but sometimes they're just off. We have more need, or we decide not to use one vendor and we want to use one of the vendors more. And so that's why we come back. We try to project what we think we're going to spend with a vendor, and that is our estimate based on prior years. But sometimes those things change. Another vendor might not have stock, and we need to increase one of our IFBs or RFPs additional amount, or we have more kids that are in one program, or they want to go to something in the summer, and we have more participation, so we're going to increase that purchase order, and we're going to do something different in our budget with, like, for example, community ed. So these are an increase to how much we're spending with that particular vendor based on the contracts. And we're required by law to ask you, the board, to allow us to spend that much, in a sense, with those vendors who are approved on those contracts.
And again, it's not a criticism. We're just trying to understand the process.
Yes, but I understand it's hard to understand. Now, one thing, too, I think, Mr. Roars, I think it's good to explain is that we bring back the budget in December, and we bring the budget back again in May. So you're going to see the last revision in May. If there are adjustments to our overall budget because we had to increase, say we didn't have enough money in an area, which has happened in the past, transportation costs went up, our utilities go up, things like that, and that were not expected, we have to bring that back, and you see that either in December or you see it in May, and we'll talk about that during the budget revisions. These items are specifically just about procurement. It's just allowing us to spend that amount with that vendor. You already approved the IFB or the RFP. It's just how much we thought we were going to spend with them, and now we're asking you if we can spend some more with that specific vendor.
Okay. How come it's never less? No, never mind.
What was that?
I didn't say that. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll go ahead and vote on this. All those in favor of approving the additional $60,000 for the remainder of the 23-24 fiscal year for the warehouse additional supplies, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. And lastly, we have our marketing and communications job descriptions. Dr. Nance.
Madam President, members of the board, as a continuation of our job description project, which we've been working on for the past 3 years, the Marketing and Communications Department had their positions updated to reflect current job description duties and roles. These job descriptions have not been updated for over 15 years. Last board meeting, you guys approved the first of them, which was our website designer. No new FTE are being added. Any addition on ranges being changed or being covered by the marketing department's budget. We're requesting approval of the updated job descriptions for the Marketing and Communications Department.
Thank you, Dr. Nance. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the marketing and communication job descriptions changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I got a question.
Okay, Mr. Worth, you have a question?
Are we reorganizing our marketing program?
There are some internal,
description,
there is
moving
some
things around?
internal reorganization. We have also renamed because some of the duties have changed. For instance, our videographers do not only do videography. So you'll see them change to the media production specialists. But we are putting in some mid-level management, one over more of the digital communications, one more over the marketing, and setting up the organization within it.
Mr. Roars?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I quite understood that. It's kind of the same question as Joel. Are these new positions that have new duties, or are they open positions we're trying to fill, or there's like 4 recs on here, so I'm not quite understanding what you're trying to do.
So there's 7 positions within the department. We've looked at all the positions. Several of them, 2 of them in particular, have been redesigned to meet the needs of our district and our goals for the district moving forward, especially on the marketing side, working in that area. So we've updated them. The people are in those positions currently. We did this similarly when we did it with our technology department and had some reorganization and updating there. So no, there's not a new FTE within that, Mr. Roars.
Yeah, I guess that was the key question. Are the positions currently filled, and you're just
So I guess
reimagining them? Go ahead.
Right.
Okay.
I still get the feeling, though, that we're going in a different direction than we have in the past, is the sense I'm feeling. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. We've updated it to meet our needs that we currently have and not the way the department was structured back when we ran Channel 99.
And Stephanie Ingersoll has done an amazing job really knowing what the market is out there in the communication pieces and consulting with the best nationwide, really, to align what are the needs of our employee base and then making sure that those needs best benefit our district, especially in communications. So it's just a realignment in an area, and one of the positions hadn't been filled yet. So that's one of the positions that are part of those, but everybody else is in a position right now.
I was going to comment, too, that since these job descriptions haven't been updated for over 15 years, I'm sure that a tremendous amount of technology and social media and things, when I noticed these in the descriptions, that now these are being identified as part of the responsibilities when 15 years ago those didn't even exist. Everything was pretty much done on paper rather than on websites and some of the apps and things like that we utilize for communications. So I'm glad that we are able to, I guess, modernize the descriptions and allow them to really meet the needs of the district.
We did purposely wait on this department to allow Ms. Ingersoll time to do a needs assessment within the department on what was needed. So we're in a year and a half working on this.
Thank you.
Had some further comments. You know, in this whole area of marketing, we've been kind of kicking this around for a while. I think we need a much stronger effort. We're in a far more competitive environment that the district's ever been, and I don't think they're really used to competing at this level. So I proposed a marketing plan and asked for a response on it several months ago, and I thought the response was actually inadequate because, you know, you're talking about the analysis of the market, but where is it? You know, we're talking about having detailed plans to address the needs and the competitive threats, but I don't have that either. And there doesn't seem to be any plan to roll back to see if anything that we did that we worked. You know, so when I say marketing plan, I mean, I think I would like to have a much more substantial effort in this area.
Mr. Roars, that's all scheduled for your
May
board
10th.
retreat in May here. So
I think that's a great idea.
Great.
Thank you.
already
It's all
scheduled.
set to present
Already
to you on the
scheduled.
May 10th agenda.
Yeah.
May 10th.
All right. So if there's no additional questions, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of updated job descriptions for Marketing and Communications Department. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. Next, we will be moving on to our information items. Our first one is the board agenda roadmap. It's getting near the end of the year.
Our next meeting is on May 8th. We will have our retirees reception that evening. We're going to be looking at a study session, I believe, on a bond overview. And we will be having our board retreat on the 10th, 2 days later. Graduations begin, we've got a lot of them. Our Hill Academy and Chandler Early College graduations are going to be on the 16th of May, Chandler Online Academy on the 21st, Chandler High on the 20th, Perry and Hamilton on the 22nd, ACP, Basha and Castile are going to be on the 23rd. So just to let the community know when those are going to be. And then our next is board member current events. Shall I start with Mr. Worth? Do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Mr. Olive?
No, thank you.
Mr. Roars?
Oh, I have stuff.
Okay.
So the week of April 8th, I was able to actually take a vacation. Can't remember when the last one was, but we were in Washington, D.C. So saw more monuments and museums than I'd want to in a lifetime. Did a lot of walking, but the most interesting part was spending a lot of time in Congress. We were able to visit Representative Andy Biggs, who was our CD5 representative, in his office, and he arranged for a personal tour of Congress for us, and also to attend some of the congressional hearings, which are nothing like what we do here. So got to see FBI Director Christopher Wray ask for money. He was no more than 10 feet from us. And then also got to see a public report on strategic threats from China with a lot of generals in there. So it was, all in all, it's fascinating. My son was able to take a trip to Washington, D.C. when he was a senior at Hamilton High School. That was arranged by one of the teachers. And I think it was, one of the highlights of his young life. So I would encourage anybody, and particularly with teenage kids, to do that, to see what's really there. It's very impressive. I think we saw earlier at ACP Middle School, their A+ School, or A+ School of Excellence Award. That is really a lot of fun to do, and Dr. Reddy there just does a fantastic job. I mean, she's an amazing person, an amazing principal, and really leads that school. So she needs to be commended for that. The next day on April 20th, we had an upstander rally. That was over at actually Gilbert High School. And these are some of the parents here that wear the orange and whatever, but it was a very positive experience. They brought in speakers, they talked about it. Several Gilbert Town Council members were there. I was able to speak to them, able to speak to another board member from Gilbert Public Schools who's very interested in this. So I think the community is really coming together, and all the institutions are coming together to try to address this really difficult problem. And I think what we're finding is that the depth and breadth of it was far greater than anybody ever really imagined. Gilbert PD has already made 40 arrests along these lines for multiple incidents. So they're working very hard on that. And then right after that at Basha High School, there was a mental health summit. It was actually organized with some of the students there as a service project, community service project. So that was very interesting. And they did bring in some speakers, actually some younger people that are college age, but telling the kids and talking to the kids at that level about, having a plan, not getting knocked off of that plan, not getting distracted, and having the courage to execute, when things are going against you. And I think that's a message I think our kids really need to have. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but they got to focus on what they're doing in order to succeed. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roars. The Chandler Education Foundation is hosting a number of breakfasts at each of the high schools over the next couple of weeks to award the Impact Scholars. I think we heard a little bit about that earlier this evening, and other scholarship awards from individual donors. I think it's a great time to celebrate our students. I think that later probably within the next 2 months, we'll have a firm number on how the kind of scholarship, the amount of dollars in scholarships that the students in the Chandler Unified School District earn.
for college. So they do a really, really great job, and we can see that our students are earning these scholarships that are really helping make college more affordable for them. So just because of the great supports and donors that we have within the community. If there's no other questions or comments, our next meeting is on May 8th, and thank you for coming this evening. This meeting is adjourned.